Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to Irons United for our Gift of the Gab podcast. Tonight, we've got quite a lot of things to discuss, so we're not going to really hang about much, but we have a couple of guests on. Some familiar faces. We are joined by Alf. How you doing, Alf? You okay? You well?
Good evening. Yeah, very well. Thank you, Anton.
And welcome back. And of course, Nigel from More Than Just a Podcast. Nigel, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well, champ. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome back to the YouTube channel that everyone listens to.
But no one watches.
That was a dig there, Nigel. I'm only joking, mate. I'm only joking. We don't take offence, as we know, as we've spoken about. Yeah. Anyway, listen.
Hold on, Nigel. I'm a bunch bit with you, Nigel. Right now, you look like the old character we used to have at school. What, no mates? You know,
Chad.
Yeah, little Chad. That's right. Yeah, come up a little bit.
Come up a little bit.
You need to be like a meerkat.
Do you want to be like that? Do you want to? Is that better?
Oh, perfect. There you go.
That's the one.
Nice little backdrop of London.
Very nice.
Not a green screen as one of you boys thought it was. I wouldn't know. That's my real wall.
Yeah, you can tell there's not a glow. There's not a glow.
Yeah, I think Dan said to me, I want to use a backdrop like you got on the green screen. And I went, mate, that's my kitchen wall.
Yeah, listen, I've got magnolia on mine. That's what it is. It's green screen magnolia.
Yeah.
We have.
Anyway, should we get on with the show?
Yeah, of course we should. You know, we've done all our welcoming. Listen, get your comments in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up, all that malarkey. But we are here to discuss a few things, and in particular, there's been a lot of media attention, of course, around West Ham and the price of mascot tickets. So the reason why I was really keen to do this video and the reason why I brought Nigel on was because we both share quite I don't know how many fans have actually done it for West Ham in particular. But I was a mascot for West Ham back in 1996 against Liverpool. It was actually Slaven Bilic's first ever Premier League goal, not domestic cup goal, because I think he scored the week before in the cup. And Nigel, you were a mascot back in the 1900s?
You stole that from me. I was just about to say 1942.
Yeah, post-war it was. Yeah, it was pre-Falklands War. It was that long ago.
Oh dear.
Yeah, 1981.
1981. Yeah. So just for any of yous, we've got some images and we're happy to share them. So Nigel, this is your first image. Very fortunate enough to walk out with lots of legends, I suppose you could say, but in particular, Mr. Billy Bonds. I mean, what was your experience like as a mascot? It's
a kid's own dream. I can probably, like you, I can tell you the day from start to finish. When Mum drove me to the ground, I mean, we were season ticket holders anyway, but we got to the ground. I think we had to be there about 12:30. They sat me down. They put me in John Lyall's changing room to get changed, and then John Lyall comes in once. They actually didn't have a kit my size, funny enough. So that was actually my own kit, and they gave me a size bigger to take home.
All right, okay.
So luckily, I'd wore my own kit to the game. I'd actually wore my own kit to the game anyway. So and my tracksuit. So they gave me a kit. John Lyall. I had 10-15 minutes, I think, with John Lyall sitting down. My mum told me off because I said to Lyall that I thought Clive Thomas was out of order for booking you at Wembley. You know, I was an 11-year-old kid. You know, I think he was a cheat, you know. And John Lyall, well, you know, that's all done and dusted now.
Yeah.
You know, being the gentleman that he was. And he took an interest, in what I had to say and about how long I've been supporting West Ham. And I think I'd mentioned that my cousin had played youth team football in the 70s and he knew who my cousin was. And then he took me into the dressing room. I met the players. I remember Ray Stewart walking in late and everyone having a go at him. And I was standing by the door and I could not understand a word Ray Stewart said. No disrespect, Anton. But he said something. I don't know what it was.
No.
It was something like that, yeah. So about the traffic out there or something like that. yeah, we've got got to chat to a few. You had to go around the dressing room and then talk to the players, back out, let them get changed. It was a lot of hanging around, actually. We didn't have that whatever run out on the pitch warm up. It was, I think, 10 to 3, out you go. They line you in the tunnel up. Billy Bonds comes out, pats you on the head. How you doing, son? What's your name? Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. You say hello to the referee. Because it was the last game of the season, got to walk out to the middle of the pitch and we had to wave to the 4 stands. I've showed you the pony. Yeah. there's me behind Jeff Pike. That's the Jeff Pike ain't got a withered arm. That's my arm behind him. Yeah, we got the wave. I think we spun the 10p coin, which they got to keep, and I gave it to my mum to look after, and she stuck it in her purse, and I never saw it again. Yeah. And yeah, that's my mum's photo as I run off the pitch against Wrexham. Last home game of the season, we got the Division 2 trophy that day. Packed house, 36,000, I think, and it was the last game of the West Terrace. All right, okay, yeah. The West Terrace.
Pretty memorable day then.
Yeah, so it was, and then from the next home game was the start of League One or Division 1, against Brighton, and the West was all seating then.
Yeah.
So that was the last time people stood up on the West Terrace.
Oh, I mean, again, Nigel, we had a brief discussion before we came on, and my experience, even though it was in a different decade, maybe two decades ahead. I'm not joking, it wasn't 1 decade ahead of you. But, the experience was pretty similar, to be honest. We were there a good few hours before. Obviously, it was Harry Redknapp was the manager, 1996. So you had players like Bilic, Cottee was there. Hugo Porfirio, I remember he was pretty new and fresh, and everyone was reasonably excited about him. But we were talking a lot about how there was maybe not so many cameras around at those days. But fortunately for me, my mum and dad managed to get one of those roller camera things, and we took as many images as we possibly could. But then we got professional photos done, and we got a hold of them, which was pretty cool. So you've probably seen the thumbnail today, which is actually me as a 12-year-old.
Got the little one at the front.
No, the blonde boy. Yeah. So that's me, obviously Julian Dix. Young boy was called Jack, and John Barnes, captain for Liverpool. Same experience there. Good few hours before. Got a couple of tickets for the family. Hung about quite a lot. Got to spend some time alone with Harry Redknapp. Whilst we were in talking to Harry Redknapp, Jeff Hurst walked in. And I think I never managed to actually save this onto the thing, but I'll put this up there just to show us. This is Jeff Hurst with my dad. So my dad had never managed to meet one of his all-time heroes, but managed to do it. That's outside Harry Redknapp's actual office, inside the West Stand, the old West Stand.
Probably the same office that John Lowe had, because it was a narrow tunnle, wasn't
it? Yeah, absolutely. And then, just got to spend some time, went to go in, and we got a tour. Did you get a tour, Nigel, or a little bit of a tour, or a talk about, the changing room? Because that's where we learnt the stories about Julian Dix bathing with his football boots on. Obviously, Julian Dix came after that, but we just got some stories. And then we were told a lot about how they were struggling at the time to build onto the stands at the time because of the bus station, etc. So a lot of inside information was really cool, talking a lot about players. Who was the one that ate loads of Snicker bars or marathon bars back then? I think it was maybe Alvin Martin had a bit of a fascination with Snicker bars, etc. Anyway, this whole experience was just absolutely fantastic. Got a chance to run out onto the park, shoot a couple of shots against Liddell McCloskey. Fortunately for me, I managed to trickle one in. It was the most awkward shot I've ever hit in my life, but it went in, and I felt like I celebrated. But when we ran out onto the park, I think I told you the story, Nigel, that some people actually thought that I was a player, not people that were close, because they realised I wasn't an athlete, but they could look from the distance and think, oh my God, there's a tall guy, and the little mascot's out. Who's that guy? But my mum and I had a lot of family in the crowd, and they were all saying, "Oh no, that's just the mascot."
I was 96, so where was I sitting then? 96, South Bank, Bobby Moore Lower.
Yeah.
So
Bobby Moore Lower is where I shot into.
Yeah. So me and my mates were probably laughing at you, going, "What the fucking size of that one?" Sorry, it's not 9 o'clock yet. Dear, oh dear. We'd have looked him up. He's from Scotland. God, the porridge they eat up there must be good. Dear, oh dear.
But a couple of, I mean, it's topical right now because obviously West Ham are currently the highest priced Premier League mascot package, which is offering up to £700 to parents for certain matches. And depending on what match they are and what they potentially get and what they don't get. I mean, something else I briefly want to talk about is I was fortunate enough and I got presented with this plaque, which I don't mind showing you all, which of the day, which is an amazing thing that I can take away and never really forget about that, and always adds to it. But I mean, I've kept the match day ticket. I've kept them in. You know, they didn't actually rip the thing off them, the turnstile tickets, so I managed to keep all of them. But I got a strip provided, like you did, Nigel. I got to keep the strip, and I got the full treatment. And I kind of felt. I felt like one of the players, maybe, apart from obviously, like you said, there was a bit of waiting about, but I did. Even the family felt pretty special that day. Yeah. But now, with all the news that's coming out about us, and we've known a little bit for a while that there is these costs implications for West Ham mascots. But like I said, £700 for certain matches. First and foremost, I'll come to you in a minute, Alf. Nigel, where are you at with that?
For me, if it was £700 and you was the only kid, in a way, I could see what they're doing. I asked my mum. My mum thinks it was about £150, which was, more than a month's wages for her at the time. So it was a lot of money. I got a kit, a match ball. We got 2 tickets to the game. That was it. So,
and just to quickly let you know, I was in 96. So from 81 to 96, the price went up to, I think we got, my mum and dad confirmed to me today, £240.
Yeah.
What was included in that was 2 matchday tickets, the strip, the plaque. I also got a big A3 folder, which was engraved, and it had every picture of every player that I could get them to sign it from.
Oh,
and then
right.
So we got the experience from that as well.
Yeah.
So it was, but equally, it was still a lot of money, but it was value for money.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't want, as I said, if £700, if you was the mascot, not one of 14 or 15 as sometimes that you see running out there, then I can understand it being a special day. It does seem rather excessive for me. Possibly, I'd have thought no more than £300. But then when I look now, actually, when I say £300, and I look, and sometimes I look and I think there's 12, 13 of them, and I do watch, and I see them, they run out. I know they have a little training session on the pitch before the game, but they're not really part of it. And literally, they walk out now on the pitch, they get 2 minutes, 3 minutes, then they have to go to the centre, have your photo done, and then off you go.
Yeah.
It don't now. As you said, I think the word you say is value for money. I don't see where the value for money is with it. I don't.
Yeah.
But it depends. It's hard because I'd love to see what the kids have got to say, because I can probably recite that day as well as I can the day my kids were born.
Completely.
So it was even the build up to it. I'm sure you was the same. You just
the morning you wake up,
mate, I don't think I slept the night before.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
I mean, the picture in the program, I can even remember my mum. I was playing football in the street outside, and she dragged me down to WHUFC in Canning Town. I still remember the day she took me down, stuck me in the photo booth, had 4 photos done because she had to send it off with the form, which was 6-7 months before the game was played.
And you have to wait and wait.
Yeah, we had to wait. Yeah, I think my uncle put me on. They started doing mascots, I think, 1979. And my uncle put my name down on the waiting list there and then.
Yeah.
So it was 1981, so about a year and a half later.
Yeah.
But you think that's possibly only 50 games? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So it's 50 kids. So when you looked at they're doing like 100 odd kids. How many kids now want to be a mascot?
Oh, shit.
So then that perhaps explains why they have to have 12 or 13 a game.
But if you're looking at 12 or 13 a game, though, and potentially starting £700, Alf, I mean, it's not stating that it's for every single game, but it is for Category A matches, which there is more of these days than there is in the past. I mean, what is your thoughts on it? I mean, I'll give you a brief rundown in a minute of other clubs in the Premier League and what their costs are.
Well, I know there's a big differences amongst the clubs, but my take on it is this, and it goes a lot deeper than just having giving your kid an experience of the day. Because I wanted to do it for my lad when we first went to London Stadium. It was basically said, right, okay, let's get you in, and then looked at the prices and I thought, no, there's no chance. There's no way, we can afford to spend that amount of money just on an experience like that. And then I sort of did a bit of research and got a bit of feedback of other fans as well. And I already started to hear horror stories back then of, how much it was costing and what kind of experience the kids were getting. Lots of parents were feeling really disappointed. But it goes a lot deeper than that for me, because this is about outreach into the community. This is about trying to develop the next generation of fans. And if you're giving the parents and the kids a bad experience at such a young age, and you're pretty much ripping off the families, then that doesn't help you engage with the community, and doesn't help you engage with the next generation of fans. In fact, in many ways, it might alienate them. If you do a bit of research on some of the families who have already done this and the way they've been treated, it's almost like they never want to go to a game again. And it's that bad. And so they've made representations to Karen Brady. She said it's part of their commercial, venture, their income. I think they've tried to go through the OSB as well. There's no joy there. So they basically just see it as a money-making scheme. Outrageous for me. It should be free, completely free.
I spoke to a particular fan who I think was engagement with some online journalist today, and he gave me a little bit of inside knowledge on his son, who he was Category A game for the Spurs game. He doesn't remember it being exactly £700, but he does quote anything between £500 and £650. His son got a mascot trophy with his name on it, something probably reasonably similar to what I got. Got a few signatures, a drink of water and a sandwich. He got one match ticket with it, and he didn't get a strip. That could have just been his circumstances, but that is a lot of money.
I've heard that time and time again. Now,
I just want to state that that's what we're hearing. I can't name that for facts, so I don't know that categorically for a fact, but that's me speaking to this dad who's paid for his child, apparently, and he's told me all that information. But Nigel, I mean, we'll come to the comments in a minute or later on, but people are saying that this should be free. Do you think that Mascots should be free?
When you got, it's hard because you think when there's 13 or 14, they could have a certain amount free. Now, the thing is, what I don't see anymore is the Junior Amateurs Club. Years ago, I remember taking the piss out of our mates because they got to hold the Junior Amateurs flag and walk around, and that was not their way of being a mascot, but they did a lot of things. They run a proper Junior Amateurs Club, and it weren't just about getting 30 quid out of a parent, giving them a crap badge and a scarf and a little junior membership. It was a proper club, and they had parties and players, and they used to go and meet the players. My mates were well into the Junior Amateurs. So if there was something where 2 or 3was set aside for them, so they would have a draw out and say, right, you could be a mascot. What people may not know is that if you've got like a box or you're corporate, you also get to put your child forward as part of the package.
Right, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you've paid your $3,500 or whatever. Well, then you can put your child in to be a mascot.
Yeah, but sorry to interrupt, but isn't this a clear case of, I don't want to get all, red flag here, but isn't this a case of, the rich being able to pay for it, and then the less affluent in the community, in the fan base, not being able to afford it? You're basically just paying for the privilege. Why not just have, because this is kids we're talking about here, why not just have a lottery system or, you know, any kind of system? Say, right, there we go, just sign up, register, and every season in the summer, you get it's a new list that you have to sign up to. And so, right, this is my kid, and it's only up to 12-year-olds, let's say, or 11-year-olds. That's it. That's the maximum age. Then you can get any kid going in there. Yeah. Why not do that? Well, instead of having 12, 13 players, mascots, why don't we have 30 for a game? Why don't we have 40 for a game? Why don't we get as many kids through it as well? It's all free.
Yeah, I think
the PR. Just think of the PR.
You can't have, for me, you can't have a free for all. As I said, I think the cost is excessive. I think it's excessive when you look at the rest of the Premier League. I mean, there's some clubs that don't charge, but what you'll find with them is like clubs. I think Man United, I think Liverpool do it. Is that they actually go out to charities, so they will have a special needs kid. Or
well, just on that, Nigel, I'll quickly do a run through of the Premier League clubs. So Arsenal are free, and it's a membership prize draw.
Yeah.
Aston Villa are £500 for a Category A match with one place donated to Foundation Department for Good Cause. So I mean they're pricey. Bournemouth £235 for Category A matches. Brighton £350 to walk out with the captain. £250 for other players. 2 free places also available per match via ballot. I think that's reasonably pricey for Brighton. Burnley four £310 VIP mascots per game, with proceeds going to non-profit causes, 6 places per game at £40. So they've got 4 VIP mascots per game at £310 at Burnley, and then 6 further places available for £40, with all the proceeds going to not-for-profit causes. Chelsea's free. Crystal Palace, £375 for a gold package, £100 for silver if the child brings its own kit. It's such an interesting one to read. Everton, at least one free place for members per match, £600 Everton in the community charity package. Leicester, £355 plus several free places for a draw. Liverpool free, Manchester United free, Manchester City free, Newcastle free. Norwich, £500 to walk out with the captain. Other places are £380. Sheffield United, £360 for premium games. Prices start at £300. Southampton's free. Tottenham, £485 for Category A match. Prices start at £350. Members can also get free. Watford, £100 suggested donation to the Watford Community Education Trust and a free prize draw. Wolves, £450 for platinum matches. Prices start at £320. West Ham, £700 for a Category A match. And then apparently 3 places per game will be offered for free next season via a member's ballot.
You're basically talking in the region of about, what, 280,000 a year that the club get from this. Is that right? Is that my maths right?
If you're doing a kind of average, so category, so I'm assuming the lower categories are good £500 probably.
I believe it goes down to £350.
Does it?
Yeah.
Away games are free. So we do have.
So basically,
an away mascot.
They're getting out of the fan bases, out of parents, okay, who may or may not be able to afford this, out of kids' experience. They're getting, let's say, 250,000 a season, right? That isn't 2 players' weekly wages. It doesn't make a difference to the club finances in the grand scheme of things, the amount of money that they're earning. It doesn't make a difference. Why charge it? It makes no sense whatsoever. I cannot agree. No, if it was a nominal fee, let's say £40, £50, okay, I would buy that. I would buy that, and I would say, okay, fine, and you get a kit for it or something like that. If there was no profit being made in that £50, okay, fine. But for me, it should be free all the way.
Yeah,
I can. Yeah, I could. What I like there is the clubs where they go, right, the money goes to the foundation, the money goes to charity. You know, as I said, I think charging £250, £300 for a top package is reasonable. The only thing that makes it mad, when I think about it, is that £700 is dearer than the 2 season ticket I bought.
Yeah,
I paid. You know, I moved into Band 5 because, you know, I want to go to the games, but I don't want to give them shysters any more money than I have to. So I moved into band 5 as quick as I could, and I bought a 2-season ticket for less than £600 for 2 seasons. So when you compare it to that, you think, well, hold on a minute. And this kid, the thing is, they don't get value for money. For £700, you'd want them to have a good 2-3 hours of being pampered and looked after.
Yeah.
You know, they're not getting that. You know, they get a kick about and a run about and run around a few cones. And, stand on
as well.
Yeah, stand on a bit of carpet. They're not getting a kit. They're not getting an autographed football. You know, they're not getting the plaque. They're not getting the pack that Anton got. You know, all that stuff goes to making a special day. Look in the program, I can tell you, because I do look. They get their name and their favourite player. Bang! You read the program to me. I should have dug out your program because I've got it. And you know, you read the program, you'll see what school I went, who my favourite player was.
Yeah.
You know, I was in the boys' brigade. You know, all stuff like that. It actually told you what I did.
Yeah. I think
it goes to being special, isn't it?
I think I do agree with, I suppose, all different angles. The only thing I don't agree with is the cost. The cost is to be so far ahead in comparison to every other club is a joke. Whereas, would we be moaning as much if this was sitting at £250? I get your point, Alf, on that about it being free completely, but I don't have a problem if the club charge, because I don't know if that's maybe because my parents paid for me and they did tell me at the time, this is your birthday, Christmas, put into one gift. And you know, if anything, if it was a free for all within reason, would I have got that experience that I ever had? So it gave me that, you know, I'm thinking about my son when he's older. Would I don't know if by default I could be the problem to the system because I've done it and I know what I felt like. Therefore, would I want my boy to do the exact same?
Okay.
Therefore, would I be stupid enough, and I admit this, stupid enough to pay that money?
I would.
Yeah, but hold on. Would my child have any much of a lesser day if it was free? What are we talking about? Are we talking about paying for something, or are we actually talking about the experience that your child gets at being a mascot on match day?
I'm saying if it's free, the problem we may have is you might not actually, the waiting list could go dramatic. You might not even get an opportunity to do it. Whereas when it was booked for me, I was on a similar waiting list to maybe about 8 or 9 months back in 96.
Well, that's why I'll say if you make it clear that there's an age limit on it, and also that it's renewed. You have to re-register to be on the list every year. And once you've registered, you know, let's say once you've appeared, that's it. You can never go on it again.
Yeah.
You know, you could put things in place to actually try and make it. You can make fans or families jump through a few hoops if you like. You say, okay, you know, you've got to be a member. You know, you've got to have a client reference number, whatever. You know, you could do all sorts of stuff, but as long as it's free, for me, as long as it's free, and it could still be special, and for the kids, it would be a special day.
I mean, there's opportunities here. You know, we know with all the current situation that's going on, everyone's looking into every single situation at West Ham, and it is the board that keep on giving, I suppose. And every story that comes out right now is not going to be a positive story. But let me ask
you this question. Everybody is going on about the board and how much we want them out and everything. If there is some little thing that they could do to start winning back some of the fan base, I'm not saying all the fan base, I'm saying some of the fan base, it's little things like this. And it's always little things. It's those first little steps that they could do. You say, okay, yeah, we see the error of our ways. We can see that we shouldn't be charging kids. You know what? We're not going to do it anymore.
Well, do you know what, Alf? There's a point you're going to say in that, because the fact that we're so far out ahead in comparison to everyone else, would we be discussing this if we were sitting at £250 a month? It is, like you said, I mean, I know it's not free that I'm talking about, but if this was £250, sorry, I'm not a month per child, this would not even be a discussion. It's the fact that we are having so many problems as a fan base or a social media fan base that we see this and this doesn't help. £700, £200 above any other club in the Premier League. I mean, that is, like you said, not it's not value for money. Nigel mentioned it, like the kids get what, 2 minutes. Speaking from the parent today, the kid gets a little thing. I mean, do they get to meet every single player? From what I see, from when the media goes in behind the scenes, you see a collection of young kids standing there in the tunnel, and
that's all they get.
Walk in and then hit their hand along the way.
They don't get to go in the. You said you went in the dressing room. I went in the dressing room. You know, you was every player knew we were the mascots that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were told our name. This is Nigel, blah, blah, blah. Oh, hello, blah, blah, blah. General chit-chat, pat me on the head. Walk your man, go. I was in there for 10, 15 minutes, you know. But the fact that I can reel that off, you know, what's that, nearly 40 years ago, and I can reel that off, shows you how much, you know. You said about working class families, Alf. My mum was a single parent, you know. We were not, you know, I had an older brother who didn't really like football, you know, but my mum and my uncle knew that this was, you know, this was something that I was West Ham mad, obviously, I still am, but, you know, this is what went to contribute. But the fact that they did that for me, you know, was a special thing. We never really had foreign holidays or stuff like that. We never went on holiday. Yeah. My mum paid for me to do this. In fact, I missed out on a school trip to France because my mum had paid for me to do this. And believe me, yeah, I know what I'd rather have done. And it weren't spent a week in Saint-Tropez with all the other kids. I went and walked out on the pitch with West Ham, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And looking at it, as I said, my mum paid about 150 quid. I think she said she earned about £35 a week in 1981. So it's, you know, and that's the thing, that the price when you look at it is probably roughly where it would be if you look at index linked and whatever. I think 700 quid is still too much. But the experience I've got for what the kids are getting, it's not value from, and that's the thing. Yeah. They're getting 200 quid's worth of value for 700 quid.
Yeah.
And that's typical of West Ham though. You pay a premium and you get shortchanged, being polite.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're shortchanging the kids and the families.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they're doing. And as you say, they could go a long way. They don't need, bearing in mind how many kids they got. They used to have one. They upped it to 2 in your era. Then it went to 3. There was never generally more than 3. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a whole football team's worth. That's good because more kids get to do it. But why does it still have to be 700 quid for every kid? Why can it not be, you know, when you've got that many kids, you know, you're making £1,300 a game if you charge them 100 quid. Well, that pays the wages of the person. That pays the wages of the person because obviously you've got to have someone to organise it. Well, their wages are covered. What do you need to do with the money, as you say, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the latest is that the category A games, they were still going to charge 700. They were going to make 2 or 3 places free, weren't they? But I don't know how they were going to do that. I don't know if they were going to open up for some kind of lottery or something like that. But
they've said it's going to be 3 places per game will be offered for free next season via members ballot.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So there's loads of comments coming in. Everyone's pretty much saying it should be free. And then you want the kids to come to the games when they get older, from Tim Smith. Raymond Debo, money equals money in goals' eyes. It should be free. Does that 700 quid make that much of a difference to the club's finances? JGM, kind of agreeing with you, Alf. It doesn't. So, yeah. I
think you find everybody's going to agree with me tonight.
Yeah.
The thing is,
when Chad over there.
When you look at the penny pinching that goes on at the club, you know, and let's look at it. They didn't want to buy an extra 1,200 tickets for Liverpool because of the cost, because they'd have had to pay up front with them, and they said they didn't guarantee getting the money back. Well, people like us could go, well, actually, the money you've raised from Mascots covers that money if you don't sell them. You know, why can you put 3 coaches on, but then not buy the tickets that you might sell? It gives us a stick to beat them with. This is what they missed. This is where, and for me, this is where it highlights the lack of football supporters and predominantly West Ham supporters that work in the senior positions at the club, because they would know, if you was a football fan and if you was a West Ham fan, you would know actually it don't sit right with the club, and perhaps we could be going in and changing it, and stopping it.
Well, listen, let's just hope that the board kind of take, if anything is going to come out of this potentially situation, is the highlighting the fact that it is too pricey, and hopefully they re-look at this. I don't think they will, but it would be nice if they at least done something to make it a cheaper experience for people, because that is just astronomical. But there is a few more other stories. Before we move on, make sure you keep getting the comments in, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up. But this week in particular, last week, we seen Kevin Nolan join the club and in a coaching role temporarily till the end of the season. The chicken dance is back, and he's made some kind of interesting comments this week. He said he's been watching the squad, and he doesn't see us being relegated at all whatsoever. Straight to you, Alf, with your glass of wine, your bottle of claret there. What's your thoughts?
Got a claret in my hand.
What is your thoughts on his kind of comments this week in particular?
Well, hey, look, I think he's just trying to show a bit of positivity, isn't he? He's showing a bit of optimism. It could be a bit of a rallying cry for the squad as well, that he has faith in them, that he's not going to go in there and say, yeah, they're absolutely load of rubbish and we got no hope. He's got to be positive, hasn't he? Whether he's telling the truth or not is, who knows? I think I'm not going to knock him for trying to be positive, because let's face it, that can only be a good thing, I suppose. We need all the luck we can get. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Myself and Alf done a show last week. We were talking about, should West Ham get relegated, what potential managers would be in the wings. And one of the people were commenting left, right and centre. We were talking about every ex-player under the sun and coaches that are currently around. And Kevin Nolan actually came up. What's your kind of knowledge on Kevin Nolan in particular? Do you think he's going to make a bit of a difference, or is there any inside info you know on it?
No, I've got no inside info today. Even though he did try to ring me while I was on here. So not Kevin Nolan, by the way.
Big fat Sam.
Well, people think, no, not him. I mean, when Nolan come to the club, I must admit, son of Sam, I thought he was part of the Boltonisation of the club. And I can't say I was his favourite player, but I'll tell you what, he won me over. With his performances and the way he spoke about the club. I think the way he left the club, in realising that perhaps his legs weren't what they were, and in Billich's first season, Sam had gone. He could have stuck around and took the money and sat on the bench. Billich had gone to him, made Noble captain, and said, "Look, you're possibly not going to be a first team regular." And he held his hands up and went, "Yeah, I think you're right. It's time for me to go." And he's only ever said good things about the club, So, and he went. He went to Orient first. He did a good job at Orient. They were owned by a lunatic Italian, and we all see the car crash they become under him. So it's no disgrace there, actually, that it didn't last long and he got sacked, because he was on a long list. I think the bloke had about 11 managers in 3 years.
Yeah, crazy.
He then went to Notts County, did a good job stabilising the club that was on a downward slope. I think he had them up around the playoffs. The season after, I think they had a bit of a wobble start in the August. They sacked him. Bang, they got relegated. So perhaps, Notts County pulled the trigger too early.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move. I always prefer to have coaching staff that have been around the club, that know the club, and that have played for the club. So I think it's a good move there. Also, I think it's what we're saying about managers is the problem with West Ham is, especially with Pellegrini and his coaching staff, is a lot of other managers. You think Everton had Duncan Ferguson to turn to. Yeah. A lot of clubs have players on the coaching staff that are allied to the club and not to the manager. So therefore, when the managers go, they're still there to eat the continuity, but they can step into the breach. Well, finally, hopefully that if it goes wrong for Moyes and he does have to leave, at least we've got someone there that could be a caretaker and step up and maybe prove himself. Because at the end of the day, there's a few managers out there that proved himself. Chris Wilder was a coach for ages and ages. You know, he gets the job because they sack a manager. Now he's the greatest English manager in the league.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
they need a chance. So I think it's a good move to embed Kevin back into the club long term. That's what I want to see. I want to see some long term thinking. I was on a podcast this week with Kieran Maguire at The Price of Football. And, you know, he's not a West Ham fan, he's a Brighton fan, and he looks at the money side, but he could point out where West Ham's gone wrong against the Leicesters and the Evertons in the way they buy things, the way they run the club. There's no long-term thinking whatsoever.
Yeah.
Everything about West Ham is for the here and now. But when the here and now goes wrong, you've got nothing to fall back on.
Yeah.
So then based upon that, do you know, it sounds like West Ham made the Nolan decision only based upon a short-term solution. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, is it a short, you know, is it a win-win situation? Is it a, you know, I look at the Bowen signing, for example, like if it's a signature that ends up working out for West Ham, then fantastic. If West Ham get relegated, they've got one of the best championship players set up for the league. Is Nolan in that kind of Scotty Parker position?
Well, it's you know, the thing with managers is it's luck in a way. As I said, you know, Wilder would never have got the job. Look at Parker now. Parker became caretaker manager after Fulham were relegated, and they were relegated with like 7-8 games to go. I don't know if you remember. They then started winning games, and I don't know if it was the release. The fact that they've been relegated and the pressure was off of them with Dan, let's go out and have a game of football, lads. Or was it that Parker come in and released that pressure off the players, give them a bit of freedom and said, come on. They started winning a few games under Parker. So that then says to the owner, oh, why don't I give Scott a go? Because he's there, so he's a bit cheaper for a start. Now look at Fulham. I don't know their game tonight. They've got a game tonight. They can go second.
Yeah,
you know, they want. So Parker was there as a player at the end of his career, went into the coaching back staff. You have to have players like that. We used to have it. You know, you think back years ago, we had Ronnie Boyce, you know, John Lowes, all these people, Mick McGivern. They were all ex-West Ham players. Yeah. You know, we had them under Redknapp. We had Peter Braybook. We brought back the coaches and we had them, you know, even Glenn Roeder was the coach.
That's a name and a half.
Still, you know, at the moment with David Moyes' record, Roeder's about to go third from bottom of West Ham managers.
Isn't it funny though when you bring up, I mean, I know this is about Kevin Nolan, but when you bring up the managers like that and look at their record and then you compare it currently to Moyes, because I think there's a lot of fan base out there that think that it was, I mean, I don't know where you put this, Alf. Do you think Moyes saved us the last year, or was that the fact that there was 3 teams that were worse off than West Ham?
A bit of both. I think it wasn't looking good up until about the last 5 or 6 games of the season, 7 games of the season. And then we had a little bit of a bounce back. And then it was those last few games that kind of pulled us clear. And then it was like, oh, yeah, what a great job he's done. Well, the problem is, yeah, he did. I mean, he did the job and the players turned around. And we were starting to have a little bit of success on the field. But it was still, for the longest time, not playing great and not winning or not performing. So, yeah, I mean, look, what can you say? As most people would agree, he did the job. He kept us up. That's what he was supposed to do. You know, it wasn't great, but it happened. You know, and but you also got the sense that that's what he was there to do, but he wasn't there to try and introduce a new style of football. That would have come if he'd stayed on. Now he's got the opportunity because that's what he wants to do. He wants to prove himself as a manager and prove himself that we can, not be a team that's just fighting relegation. We can be pushing for 6, or what everybody thought was going to happen anyway. Obviously, that's not happening either. So it's kind of gone from bad to worse with him, really.
Yeah.
But I still don't blame Moyes for this situation. I think it's just, we're just in a really poor time.
A couple of comments coming in here. Kent Hammers, great appointment. Kevin Nolan, he'll command respect, kick a few arses if needed, and put arms around others. Proper professional. I think we saw that. Well, apart from his Jack the Lad antics a couple of times. But do you know what? I don't really have a massive amount of problems with that, to be honest.
No.
Gary Page, love the podcast about the finances, by the way, Nigel. So that'll be kind of dictated to you. JGM, I think Nolan will make a slight difference on the training ground, but it will soon wear off. I just can't see anyone motivating this current squad. The rot's already set in.
Well, that's the big challenge, isn't it? It's the psychological thing to get over to the squad, to actually change the way, not only the way they're playing, but the way they're thinking.
Yeah.
And, if anything can do that, I'd say, as I keep on saying, if we do survive, it will be just by the narrowest of margins. Yeah. But it's not looking great. And I think we'll have a much better idea in the next sort of 3 or 4 games where we're at. If we don't get anything in the next 3 or 4 games, I think it's a foregone conclusion. We're down.
I think Moyes has walked into a worse situation, perhaps, than he did last time around.
Yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, the thing about I remember last time was we had Arnautovic, who was pretty poor under Bilic, to be fair. Looked totally disinterested, never did anything. Moyes then, I don't know if it coincided with one of his early... I was at the Watford away game where Arnautovic rolled around like a girl, and I'd thought he'd snapped his leg, and it came out, and then he got up, and then he got subbed, and then they said he broke a finger or twisted a finger. And for me, I was like, get rid of him. We have done our dough on him. Mm-hmm. But then we went to the Stoke game, I think, in the December.
That's right.
Whether that's for me is when it kick-started, whether that was because it was Arnautovic going back to Stoke, he's running with Mark Hughes, or the fact that we'd put him up front, he got a couple of goals, give it to the Stoke fans. All of a sudden we thought, well, this is a different player. Can he do the same with Haller? Don't look like it to me.
Yeah.
So where is this going to come from? The Bowen signing is a gamble because of the money that they've spent. We've all seen they haven't got the money, so they've spent whatever. They've had to find the money to spend it. We've possibly overpaid for him, but we've had to, because remember, it's January, so only desperate people buy big in January. But again, if we go down, hopefully, this is only 6 months in the Premier League. It will stay with us, because when you look at after squad will want to be out the door. It's the rumour is he's gone from 10 grand to 50 grand. He's got 25 million sale fee if we're relegated, and that was part of the trade-off of him signing the relegation 50% cut. So, we'll see. The shame about it is he's joined the club, and it'll be 3 weeks until we get to see him play. Yeah. He's going to be kicking his heels and everything else.
Well, before we're going to move on to kind of fixture. Do you need to go, Alf?
I do, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Alf, thanks for joining us. Myself and
cheers,
Nigel.
mate. I'll see you next time.
Always a pleasure. Anton.
Cheers, Alf. Take care, mate.
Cheers, mate. See ya.
I think, like you said there, I think Moyes is potentially looking for a particular player like the Arnautovic situation. I think the one player he's really intrigued in to see what he could do is Anderson. He's been really unlucky with Anderson's injury. But I had this little, I just thought, or maybe I think that, he's looking for that kind of player that can maybe make the step in the forward line and support that. Maybe that might change now because we've signed Bowen. We've got Antonio coming back from his injury, and Haller obviously is up there running around like a headless chicken half the time.
Yeah, I mean, the next 2 games, we can all joke, it's against Man City and Liverpool. The thing here is I think someone possibly could go down on goal difference. And we've got to fight for every goal that we don't concede. So if we lose both games 1-0, I think we've done well.
Yeah.
Purely because the goal difference. If we take another hammering, I'm not being funny. 3 games ago, we were 6 goals better off than the teams down there. We're now roughly around the same level as them.
But the funny thing is, Nigel, I mean, I know we've got those 2 games coming up, but right now we're in the relegation zone on points, not on goal difference. And if we don't,
it's only 1 point.
Yeah, but the time, well, I suppose now I was going to say by the time the Man City game's played, but we will have played that game now rather than waiting for the longer time. But there could, should we be beaten in the next 2 games, like you've said, and the gap starts to open up, we go into Southampton game potentially 4 points of a difference. After Southampton's not going to be an easy game leading into our next lot of fixtures. I mean, let's talk about the fact that the West Ham game was cancelled. It's been against Manchester City due to that storm. It's now been rescheduled for Wednesday, the 19th of February, 7:30 kickoff. I think, what is it here? It's so Wednesday night. The club today announced that they would give free travel to the fans
from Stratford. If you,
if you go from Stratford, yeah.
No, I looked up today. How much do you think a train? I looked to see how much it would cost me to get to the game. It's difficult with my work. I'm lucky I get paid well, but I'm self-employed. So for me, if I take the days off, I lose 2 days' money, which is a lot. Then I look at so I've got to factor that into it. And then when I look at how much the train fare is, so to get up there, I can stay up there tonight because my nephew lives up there, and then get the train back the next day. I think it was over 200 quid.
Yeah, it's madness,
I would think it was approaching 300 quid, and that was the cheapest. So, and that meant I could probably go to work in the morning, and then get the train about 2 o'clock to Manchester. And then I couldn't get the train back till about 7 o'clock in the morning, which meant I'm back in London. I could still get back to work probably like 10, 11. So I wouldn't lose too much money. But when I wrap it up, I'm losing nearly, I'm spending in theory there nearly 500 quid, maybe more, to get to a game that West Ham and Man City could have played this Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this winter break's new. They didn't have to have it. They've had a week off from playing. West Ham and Man City could have played that game this Saturday. And then the fans that had tickets could have got to the game the general way. But no, they chose the easy option. Oh, let's play it on the Wednesday. What's the difference?
Well, I think, I've looked into some of the stuff today. UEFA are apparently still pretty pissed off that the game is going ahead. Under normal circumstances, playing a Premier League game on the same night as Champions League.
Yeah, it's a no-no.
Would have been frowned upon. It's
especially because it's live on TV.
Yeah,
and that's why, because Sky are putting it on, and so it goes up. It's going to affect the figures, obviously, for the Champions League game shown on BT. BT won't be happy, Yeah.
They've said that when the governing body understands that Manchester City are in a tricky position thanks to a problem they had no control over, which will lead to their fixture congestion. So once the March international break has passed, there'll be only 2 spare midweek slots, and City always need one for their game against Arsenal, which was postponed after they made the cup final. And if they progress past Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup, his side will have another 2 games called off. So they can do. That's obviously what's leading to the problem. So West Ham, haven't played since the 1st of February. We're now on the 12th. We won't be playing now till the 19th, is it?
Yeah, 19th.
19th, yeah. And then City last played in their defeat to Tottenham on the 2nd of February. How's that going to have is it going to? What impact is this going to have, particularly on West Ham and even Man City as such?
Well, Sterling was going to be out. We don't know if he'll be back. But then again, when you look at the array of talent they've got, they can replace him with it. Don't really matter. Yeah. West Ham. What's the average they score against us at the moment? 5 a game.
4 or 5 a game. Yeah, we done a preview for the game that never happened, and
mean, the stats just didn't read nice at all. I
Yeah,
think the last
that's
time West Ham won was the last season
under Bilic.
last season at Upton
we
Park.
won 2-1.
Sacco and Moses, was it Victor Moses?
I think it was Victor Moses. Yeah.
That
which was a Saturday late kickoff game. 5:30. It's not, as I said, it's not a game that's good for the fans. But again, it just shows you, for me, the contempt that clubs treat fans, and also in a way that, the Champions League, European football erodes into our, they're going to scrap. I fully believe they will scrap the League Cup to make way. They want to increase the Champions League group stage games to being 6 to, I think, 8 or 10, to increase the size of the groups. They want to have this other tournament now, bring back a third tournament. So the League Cup will go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what will happen there is that will diminish lower league clubs' income.
Yeah.
So, and again, that's okay if you're a club that's in Europe, but we're not a club that regularly appears in Europe. So again, we get to lose out on games.
Yeah.
It's all about the big clubs now, football. And, sometimes I look and think, well, who is actually standing up for the football fans? Because I look at the Football Supporters Federation and they don't do anything for me. Something needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. There's loads of comments in here. I want to get onto one more topic. We'll briefly just cover it, and then we'll come into the comments. People have got quite a few questions as well. But the long-lasting player, I mean, one of my favourite players in the last decade is Winston Reid. Now, I don't know if you've done a little bit digging today for us, Nigel, but
I tried, but everybody's going, don't know.
So basically, what we know is he's been missing now for best part of it'll be nearly 2 seasons. Suffered a really bad injury to his knee. For me, though, I think the problems in our defence started from that moment onwards. I don't think we had a player that could read the game back there that well. And I don't think we've ever replaced Winston Reid. I think maybe the board and the management have always thought he's maybe on the wings. He's maybe coming back. We've maybe got enough to go by. But for me personally, I'm not saying I was a professional footballer in any way whatsoever, but as a defender, watching our back line, I'm so concerned. I've been concerned for years, Nigel, and a lot of people always put the blame on the central of midfield. But equally, there's a lot of responsibility coming out of that back four, and in particular, the 2 centre-halves are in that role. So you hear a lot of people talking this year about Ogbonna being our most consistent defender, but the most consistent defender in a shit defence, who's still conceding nearly 50-plus goals a season, 60-plus goals a season. The rumour is that Winston Reid, though, is working hard with the squad, apparently, which the concerning thing is the fact if he is working hard with the squad, why is he not appearing on the subs bench? And why is he not subsequently getting game time if he is playing the odd game for the under-23s? And then he was rumoured to be going to America on a loan move, because he's obviously got 2 or 3 more years left in his contract. But that apparently fell through. And we're just left in a bit of limbo, because it seems to be that the board just don't really talk, or no one talks about it. The club don't talk about it anymore. And it's like, what is happening with Winston Reid? What's your take on it?
Well, when you get a player that's out for that long, he is the forgotten man. And you forget how good he was for us. And you forget what he can bring to us. And the chances are, when you've had an injury like that, I've never known a player to come back as strong with the performances. I mean, Alan Devonshire was out for a while. I mean, he didn't come back the same player, but he'd done his bad knee in 84 and he was part of the 85-86 team, but he was out for a good year. I mean, Winston's been out for coming up 2, I think, in March.
Yeah.
I mean, fitness, match fit wise, how do you get to that position? Only by playing. But when, it's the problem is, it's easy to bring him in if we've got a settled back line and that we can bring him in and we're not conceding goals the way that we are. It's very difficult to slot him in the position that he is now when we are so leaking goals and we need to shore it up. Me personally, the answer is to put Declan Rice at centre half.
100%.
And the reason for that is that we are compensated in the midfield area, that we could easily push Declan back and say, look, mate, I know you don't want to be there, but do us a favour, will you? Because he's probably the best centre back that we got.
Yeah,
and he's a great centre midfield player, and I understand why he wants to play there. Funny enough, though, I think he'd be better off playing for England at centre half as well.
Yeah.
Than the players they've got in the position as well. So I think he'd do his England career well to drop back into centre half.
Coincidentally, though, if you remember back to the game a couple of seasons ago, where I think was it his first season for West Ham, or maybe his second season for West Ham, and he played in centre half against Manchester City. We went 1-0 up from an Ogbonna header. I was actually at the game, and Rice had an absolutely fantastic game of centre half. And the joke comments that people were saying was he had Aguero in his back pocket, but he did. Yes. He kept Aguero quiet the whole game. And the thing I loved about him was he was watching. He was so controlling for such a young lad. He was watching the line all the time. His vision was just, spatial awareness was just on the ball. Whereas when you watch our players, there's no combination between Ogbonna, Balbuena, or Diop that actually they don't work as a team. They don't go forward together. They don't go back together. One steps out, the other doesn't cover.
Well, the thing about it is that when we had Reed and Collins together, you had a perfect partnership there. Yeah. Reed was the ball-playing centre-half. He'd get the ball down, bring it out, link it up with midfield. And then you had James Collins, who was I'm kicking this ball out as far as I can get it, and I'm taking you lot with me. And he threw his body on the line. And in a way, it goes back to something that Alf Ramsey did. You know, Jack Charlton was not the best centre-half to play for England, but he was the best centre-half to play for England with Bobby Moore, because Bobby Moore could get the ball out, play it. And Jack Charlton was like the James Collins. He just cleared everything. Yeah, so absolutely. If he'd have had Norman Hunter at centre-half, he would probably go up, not read Bobby too much, and England would be caught out. He knew Jack was solid a defender. We had that with Reed and with Collins. We haven't got that with Diop and Ogbonna.
But then you've got to look at the game against Tottenham this year, with Mourinho's first game in charge. Yeah. And then it was just after half-time that Diop got subbed, and we put Declan Rice back there. Yeah. It was a whole new game. And a lot of people always put a lot of plaudits onto Antonio for coming onto that. But to me, a lot of that started off because Declan Rice went back and commanded that defence. And that's where, for me personally, I said it in the preview, I think that we have to make it, or Moyes has to make a bold move. Not just one bold move, a couple of bold moves, but particularly that one.
That for me, the problem, the fact that West Ham's only ever had one positive goal difference in the Premier League, one positive goal difference since 1986, says to you we've always had trouble at the back. So this is the area we need to be looking at. I think we're the 10th top highest goal scorers in the league. Yet we're third from bottom. So what's the problem? Well, we've conceded far more than what we've scored. So therefore, there is the problem. There's the load of teams that are above us that have scored less, but they've conceded far less. Look at Palace. We've probably scored about 7-8 more goals than Palace. Yet they're 4 points above us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, before we go, let's get on to some of the comments in here. Gary Page, Moyes don't follow teams he takes down. He proved that already. So I think that's coming to the point of, if we do go down, do you think he'll stay? JGM, is Nolan still eligible to play? He can't be any worse than Sanchez.
He's probably not wrong there, to be fair.
Got a bit of a pot belly though, I noticed that.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with him, mate.
No, listen, I can't talk. I
don't want to play midfield.
Going on your point about bringing ex-pros back, etc., this is why Noble must stay when he finishes. Yes. I think 100%. I don't think he should leave at all, actually. I think he needs to stay and literally probably try and set his career. He could make a really good career for himself at West Ham, and hopefully he gets it. Noble can't get this mob ticking. How could he do it as a manager? I mean, it's probably different. I think there's been a time where Noble could get the players ticking. I think there's maybe things that are out with his control, in my opinion, that maybe aren't. I mean, is that a bold statement from me, Nigel? Do you think it is Is this me going on the whole kind of board conversation, or is that we all know Pellegrini didn't do particularly well? We know that.
I mean, I'm not a Mark Noble for manager. Yeah, you know. That, I mean, I could see him working.
Eventually, maybe.
Yeah, well, listen, you know, ideally, yes, Noble for me, local boy, possibly the last of the Newham boys, you know, people from the area that may ever play for West Ham. We don't know. He's the last link to the you know, the homeland of West Ham. So for me, I think you're right. He has to be kept at the club. It's one thing to come through the youth team. It's another thing to grow up, be a ball boy for the club. You know, as a 10, 11-year-old as he was, and then go on and play and captain and everything else. So you have to keep him at the club in whatever role we can find for him. But we don't know how good he's going to be realistically until he starts coaching. I'm not being funny. This may sound strange. Billy Bonds was a crap manager for West Ham. Yeah. And people might go, oh, you can't say that. But look at his record. Yeah. He was a good Millwall manager because he was crap at Millwall. So, you know, he nearly took Millwall down. So it was good from our point of view.
Who was a good manager, though? Trevor Brooking.
Trevor, listen. Well, no, yeah, Trevor didn't want the job.
Yeah, he didn't want the job, though, did he?
You know, this is the thing. I loved Harry. To be fair, I did love Harry. I think he's harshly treated by the fans. There's two sides to every story, and that if you knew both sides, perhaps, you know, things would be different. But Bonds is, you know, a bona fide legend. Don't get me wrong, my all-time favourite player. But as a manager, he stepped in at a bad time. He had the respect to the players. But when you look at when actually he brought Redknapp in as his assistant, and if you look at the deals that he done, or the players that we brought in, you know, they were Harry Redknapp deals. It was Harry that was coming and going, you know, Bill, why don't we, you know, get rid of Dix to Liverpool and we'll bring in Chapman, Burrows and Marsh. And we all laugh, but that saved our season. You know, we can laugh about Chapman, but he did get a few goals, and Marsh and Burrows were good signings.
Yeah. No, just Lee Chapman. Just
well, yeah.
Should do a couple of. Maybe we should do a reminiscence story one day and give the fans the ones that don't know, the modern fans, an update on some of the players we have had in the past. Remind them of some of the
some bad ones around that time.
My word, there were. Yeah. One player actually, just randomly, one player I used to love. Do you remember him? Was it Jerome Bouer?
Yes.
He was actually a really decent striker at one point, but I think he's only got one eye now. I looked into this.
He's got no eyes because he's dead.
Oh, is he? Oh, so he is. Shit, so he is. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was in Hong Kong or something, or whether that's where he lost his eye or his life. I can't remember.
Wow.
But yeah.
Wow, reminiscing about some old players.
He was mad. I used to knock about with a West Ham youth player around that time who went on to play for the first team, and Jerome Paul was a bit mad.
Was he? Yeah. I think there was a couple of. Was there an incident? I don't know if there was a fight on the training ground with him and Trevor Morley. Maybe I don't know if I'm getting that.
Yeah, possibly. I think
something like that.
It was, as I said, I do remember him being, you know, hearing stories about him, and he was off his head.
Yeah. Right, let's see what here. Ken Hammers. I meant he needs to stay at the club after he finishes, not necessarily as manager, as coach, to help the kids come through because he knows the club inside out. Yeah, good point.
The problem with that is that under this current ownership, it could become a bit tricky. You know, there's battle lines to be drawn. I don't know if we're going to talk about that, you know, and he could find himself on the wrong side of it, because when you're a club employee, you do have to toe the party line. Yeah. You know, let's get this right. In the Bonds scheme, Billy Bonds did come out and try and convince fans to buy Bonds. Yeah, because he was the manager at the time. Trevor Brooking was paid handsomely by West Ham to get us to buy Bonds.
Yeah.
You know, so when you're in part of the machinery, you have to toe the party line. You know, this toxicity ain't going to go away while they're owners. And would he want to be part of that? I don't know. That's for him to decide.
I'd play Ant over Sanchez, to be honest. To be fair, listen, I've played at Upton Park 3 times, got man of the match, it was twice, so yeah, I'm a decent shout. Not. Jamie Bett's question, I think the season has turned into another great escape. Do you think now Nolan is back, do you think he can help bring some fight back? I think we've kind of covered that, Jamie, to be honest.
Yeah, but I just like his avatar. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's all right.
Daniel Knight, we have too many paycheck players and not enough players who.
Lucky my wife don't watch this. No one watches it.
My wife's sitting in the room.
All right, yeah, move
That's
on.
why I'm not saying anything. We have too many paycheck players and not enough players who play with passion. I take it you're trying to say. I agree with you, though. I do genuinely agree with you. I think West Ham, something I've mentioned before, is about whatever kind of players we bring in. I definitely don't think they are made to feel at home. I don't think there's many people there that potentially would talk about the history. I think there's probably I wouldn't be surprised if a player receives a package that gives you some brief understanding of West Ham moved from Upton Park to Olympic Stadium. West Ham won the World Cup. West Ham won 3 FA Cups, blah, 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 blah. But not a real strong understanding of the club, what it means to the fans. I don't think maybe many modern clubs maybe do that.
No, but this is the thing. Off the field, when you look at like how many employees are at the club, it's grown huge. You know, the media department, to just push out the content. You know, imagine that, and they just hire, whoever fits into what they want. You don't have to be a West Ham fan to work for a club. I understand it, but Jesus Christ, in certain positions like supporter liaison officer, like in a way the head of media and the content, you've got to have an understanding of the people you're trying to market to, because that's what they're doing. They're trying to market the club.
No, you know what's funny, Nigel? You say that it's 100% true. Now, listen, we're doing a little fan page, a little social media group. We do a YouTube channel, we do a Facebook, we do a Twitter. We've got nearly 9,000 likes on our Facebook, 6,000, blah, blah, blah. The whole point is sometimes you need to try and touch that little heart and put up a reminder of a player that we had in the past. And I think this week we put up post of the Julian Dix celebration when he scored against Wimbledon. It really touched a lot of fans, and it went kind of another viral post. We spoke about name another iconic duo. So the whole point of us putting that post up was we put Kitson and Hartson, knowing that every other fan would come back on, probably going Cotty, McAvenny, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But it's all about playing on that heartstrings, getting the West Ham fans thinking about the good times, the positive times. And
Leroy and David Kelly. Yeah, fantastic.
Honestly, if you get a chance to look at our Twitter, you should see some of the duos they did put up. I think one of them was Marco Boogers and I can't even remember the other one. There was quite a lot of funny ones there. So let's see what everyone was saying. Worst situation, much better players. Tom McNabb, Kent Hammers. I don't rate Moyes. Big Sam's been our best in the last decade.
Please, that man's record should be expunged from the history books. I would just like to see we played football here and we then hired Slaven Bilic and just forget what happened.
Ironizer, no, I think it's a joke. Moyes coming back. Who has a manager back like that if they're in his pockets? Daniel Knight, the 3 weeks might help him get a good partnership with some players. Richard Buxton, don't worry, we'll beat Man City 2-1, like the positivity. Nigel's face gives away. JGM, we've scored more than any other team, so we have a slight advantage there. I don't know if we was talking about a specific point. So let's see this question. What do you think of Liverpool fans doing a big GSB sign for us in the COP? Is that happening?
Well, I mean, the story is, Liverpool love their food banks. Liverpool, I think, were the first, Liverpool and Everton were the first football fans to set up food banks. Basically, I know the person well that does the West Ham food bank that's just started, and you can donate to him as you go along the entranceway. John Witomski, his name. He comes from up north. He's a northerner.
But he's a proper nice guy, isn't
he? He is a proper nice guy. You know, I was on the WHUFC committee with him. That's how I got to know him. We had our run-ins, to be fair, because I didn't think WHUFC should have set up the food bank. But John's done it off his own back, which is perfectly brilliant and fantastic. I stopped to say hello to him the other week. And the Liverpool, when I was standing there, the Liverpool food bank people have been a big help to John in helping, because they're proper organised. So that they've given him like a lot of tips and everything on what to do, and have become quite friendly. So I believe that they've said that if you donate money or food to the Liverpool food bank, we'll put your banner on the Kop.
Wow,
You can't get better than that, can you?
No, you can't get better than that. No. Can you imagine live under the cameras?
So if you're going up to Liverpool, take a tin of beans with you. Make sure they're red beans, not blue beans, because them scats, them Liverpudlians up there, they won't want Everton beans. But yeah, just take what you can, or even, you don't want to donate money. They'll be shaking, rattling tins. Just put a pound in or whatever. It's good to see solidarity amongst football fans. To be fair, that's what I like to see.
Absolutely, yeah. Bonnie Hammer, shed man.
Yeah, lost his shed roof, man.
Yeah,
yesterday in the freezing cold, I had to re-roof it.
DJ MC Jericho, which is Dan, play it behind closed doors so there's no home fans advantage. Kent Hammers, completely agree with Nigel. I'm going to the game on Wednesday, but it would have been be so much easier if it was Saturday week. Bonnie Hammer, should Wayne Winston be ashamed of his part in the stadium move with his propaganda video? Don't blame him. He was paid to do a job. He probably was a fan that also fell for the move, so I can't really put that on him.
Do you know, it's funny. We all know how I felt about the move and stuff like that. I remember at the time, virtually any player that came out and spoke for the move went down in my estimation. I remember listening to Tony Cottee in an SAB meeting, and I sort of lost a bit of love for him, to be fair, listening to him talk, because for me, he wanted them to sell his book in the club shop, so he come and gave a speech about why we've got to do this move. And I'm thinking, you ain't got a clue, mate. I'm sorry, you're just saying what they want you to say. You've not actually looked into it. And it's easy to come out. A lot of ex-players did, but some didn't. People like Alvin Martin never spoke good about the move. Phil Parks never spoke good about the move, or not that I know of. So, perhaps that's because I was on the other side of the fence. I don't know.
Dan has said, Ant, would you rather put Badger or Stoke down your trousers? Both, mate. Winston Reid was brilliant. Hope he comes back. I completely agree. Hope he does. We're just getting to the last couple here. There's loads, so I'm just trying to skip through. Let's have a look here. Reid with one leg is better than the rest of the defenders because he organises the line. Completely agree, but maybe not with one leg. We have discussed there about bringing Rice back into that position. And yeah, let's just call it an end there, mate. Any other last points you want to make, Nigel, before we head?
Well, we've got the protest coming up against Southampton. Initially, I was a bit on the fence whether they should do it or not if we were in the bottom three. Obviously, it looks like we are going to be in the bottom three when the Southampton game comes. But I'm not sure I'm going to be at the game. I've got a stag do that I have to be at. But if you can, I
hope the groom's not watching.
Yeah, I know. He's sitting in the room above me. If you can make the protest, go there and protest your heart out. The club, there is a way out for the club to stop the protests, which is get rid of Karen Brady. They are at the moment not going to do that. For me personally, if there don't seem to be much of an end game, they're not going to go as much as we go GSB out, sack the ball. They ain't going to sack themselves. It ain't going to end that quickly. But if we put enough pressure and made it untenable, we could get changes at the club. Because at the end of the day, Gold and Sullivan don't run this club day to day. You can have a go at David Gold on Twitter all you like. The truth is, he doesn't know as much as what most people know going on at the club. Yeah. David Sullivan's the main man with the transfers. Karen Brady is his whatever. She is in control of the day-to-day running a club. So all the mistakes that happen with ticketing, with away fans in stewarding and everything else. All that sits on her. It's her that has to go, and that's where we should be focusing. And for me, the way to do that is that if you look at it, Sullivan probably thinks that because West Ham commercially are making more money than they made, that she's doing her job well. Well, if we targeted the commercial arm of West Ham, the corporate fans, and said, will you join our boycott? You know, you've paid your money. Don't buy anything else. Don't buy any extras. Don't pay for the cup games. Put the squeeze on the commercial people. That may be a way forward, because you have to hit them financially. Shouting and screaming outside ain't going to do anything. The way to get Brady out is you got to show we will go to extreme lengths, and that is to target the commercial arm of the club, because that's what she's there for. And if the commercial people actually go, do you know what? You fans are right. And if they joined in, that's a game changer.
Interesting.
We'll see.
We'll see.
According to Sean, she's just misunderstood.
On that, we're going to leave it there. Nigel, thanks very much for coming on the show again tonight. We've kept you a little bit longer than normal. Listen, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up, get the comments in, let us know what your thoughts are, and give us some feedback when the show has finally loaded onto YouTube. It is gone live. There's been lots of comments, but your live comments disappear once the video goes on, so make sure you get the comments in, hit the thumbs up, and hope you enjoyed it. Nigel, he's been Nigel, wherever he is, over there. I've been Anton. Come on, you irons.
See you later.